Welcome in, everybody. We are back post week 3 of the NFL season. I'm your host, Matt Novak. Alongside me, as always, is Grant Hawker.
What up?
On the third mic tonight is Jamison DeFore.
Hello, hello.
We are back from a little hiatus. One of us had to go to Disneyland, moi. Spent some time with the children, and
I was sick.
it was an awesome time, and I've never driven that far in my entire life in one sitting, but we did do the all the way back from
Wow.
where we live in Oregon. So my butt hurts still, and yet here we are, just laboring in this pain to bring you all this conversation as I'm sitting here at this table.
I'm not in pain. I'm feeling good.
I feel like garbage. No,
I'm
feeling
okay. I'm feeling, so good here. Had to rep the 3 because we are 3-0. 3-0. Don't know what losing is like. Top of the division. It's wonderful.
He waited 10 seconds.
Yeah, just about
10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you guys have played.
How long it's going to be for Grant to turn into douchebag 12th man, and he waited 10 seconds.
3-0.
It's cute.
I mean, it's a pretty impressive 3 wins if you ask me. When you really
So
look at
impressive.
who they played.
No, we don't need to. We don't need to. It's 3 wins. 3 wins is 3 wins.
Who are those 3 wins against?
The Broncos, Patriots, and Dolphins without Tua.
The two
Two rookie quarterbacks, and
No,
and Skylar Thompson
and
for
Brissett's not a rookie.
What?
Jacoby Brissett is not a rookie.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, Glass. My bad. Glass and his buddy on the bench. I got you. Yeah, it's cool. You enjoy your
cool.
3-0. It's fine.
I'll enjoy while I can. You have to enjoy these moments.
The NFL currently is drunk. It makes no sense.
Yes.
Nothing makes sense right now. The Vikings are 3-0. The Seahawks are 3-0. This has been the most disgusting 2 weeks of Pick'em in the history of me doing
Dude,
Pick'em.
I'm so bummed.
It's rough.
For some reason, Sam Darnold's good at football. Never heard of that before. I have literally no idea what happened to the NFL that we knew after week 1. It went as we knew during week 1. We were like, this is how it's going to go.
You're pretty much right.
Close. Couple upsets. No big deal. Normal NFL garbage. Chiefs got their lucky win. All that stuff that, happens when you're just
aside from the Saints like exploding. That was kind of like that was weird. But otherwise, it was,
Yeah, it was pretty normal. Like, again, what we knew collectively on this show that the NFL should be.
Yeah. Well, and what I'll say is we still, we're 3 weeks in, and granted, this might even be normal from usually 3 weeks into a season, but we still don't know who's good and bad. We really don't. And I feel like that picture has not gotten any clearer even through 3 weeks. I feel like I'm in the same boat as I was before the season even started. I don't know who's good. I don't know who's bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Accurate. Like, totally accurate. I think that this is clearly the worst overall collective quarterback play we have seen in years. Passing is down dramatically across the league.
We know a way to fix that.
Injury bug biting.
We know a way to fix that. If we just ban the too high safeties, it'll fix all those problems.
Mel Kiper does not belong on this show. He
doesn't belong in any show. I'll be honest.
Worst NFL take I have heard in a fat minute.
And one of the worst hairlines I've seen in a fat minute.
Anyway, we could spend an entire show just going after that guy.
Yeah.
For that comment. But it's truly been like just the weirdest couple of weeks when you look at and obviously injuries play a massive part in this. The Rams down 2 star wide receivers, Eagles down AJ Brown, now Devonta Smith after a pretty
that was rough.
That was ugly.
That was a cheap shot if I ever saw one. I don't like the Eagles, but dear Lord, dude, that was not cool.
I mean, another concussion. That was week before. We ain't gonna talk about that.
Self-inflicted.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why he doesn't go down.
Terrible.
Dear Lord. Like,
terrible IQ on that.
Showed an episode when they were doing the behind the scenes or Hard Knocks on them, where they were talking about how he has learned how to go down, and then just slide,
and all went out the window.
He didn't learn a dang thing. He got $50 million and still is dumb.
Yeah.
I love the guy. We all love the man.
Yeah.
Love him. He seems like the most genuine, like good human
Mhm.
being. Like truly, he's an idiot when it comes to running the football. He
Yeah.
did that to himself.
Mhm.
Also, by the way, could he have picked anyone else to run into
Dude.
outside of Damar Hamlin?
I
That
mean,
would have been
Literally.
real cool if he could have picked anybody else.
I mean, some of us may have seen the meme where it was like the two most fragile things in the
Yeah.
NFL collided into each other.
Outside of
DeMar
Jamison.
Hamlin's chest and
That's
then to his head.
Fragile things in the NFL. There
I
is
mean,
nothing more fragile than Jacoby Brissett. Nothing. Okay. But no, so truly, like we don't know what these teams are. Is Miami a team that should lose by 20 plus? With all the star power they have, realistically, no. If Tua's in that game, it's a completely different ball game. Like they shouldn't be losing by double digits. That should have been at least an even score. The 49ers down multiple stars against the Rams this week, also down multiple stars. That was a heck of a game. Not gonna
yeah,
and
That game was
everybody
crazy.
who
we'll
watches
talk about it.
those are the allegiances of the people on this podcast. But
Yeah.
uh, no, all these teams just being down people, we don't know what they are.
Well, and
I agree. Like we don't know what they are.
James and I were talking before you got on, and I think we'll just have the conversation now since it was already fresh in our heads. Like, I don't think this is that surprising. The quality of football has not been good. Just look at Monday Night Football. Jags, they look lost out there. Like, there's some bad football, bad play, passing is down, injuries are just through the roof on these star players, and this isn't that hard of a thing to fathom when you shorten the preseason, when you add another game. And also, you like as coaches, you choose not to have your players play at all in the preseason. I understand that there are some stars that you want to preserve them, but at the same time, you can't replicate the NFL field without playing against an opponent. You can't replicate that in training camp. You can't replicate that in practice on a week-to-week basis. And when you give your stars, no matter how good you are, no matter if you're Christian McCaffrey, no if you're the Michael Jordan of football, you need the reps. And when you go in cold, this is what you get. Like honestly, and you
Mhm.
shorten that time that
And
they have to get healthy. And when we talked about even stuff like having Thursday night football games, those types of things, you're cramming more football down our throats, and it is quantity over quality. That's just how it
And
is.
there's a very real example too that we have where, sure, they're not playing the most beautiful brand of ball, or at least the brand of ball that they're known for, but the Chiefs, Andy Reid, they practice. They
Yep.
play their guys in the preseason.
Yep.
And
Yep.
guess what?
Yep.
They're going for a three-peat this year, and they're 3-0 currently, and they've
Yep.
gone through a slog of teams already.
Yep.
So it's the least surprising thing to me, but I can also understand that that's kind of, the cause of now you have these games being crammed in certain spots where maybe you don't feel like you want to put the extra wear and tear on guys that you
Mhm.
normally would. And, it's all kind of a trickle down of that. Um, but it is a game that you play because ultimately, we've seen many guys go down over the years in training camp, in practice, and it's just there's not a perfect solution,
No.
but when the only thing is like, hey, these are my money makers, and I can't be wasting that at a practice or getting these extra reps I need to save for the game where I make my money. This is what you get.
Yeah.
You get sloppy ball.
And I don't have billions of dollars, and I don't own a football team that rakes in millions and billions of dollars every year. But also I just wonder, like, is it worth it to these guys to not have these people play or to advocate for an extra game or one last preseason game when we've seen over the years, this is like 3 or 4 years in a row now where we've seen like stars getting injured really early on in the season. And it's
Right.
like, so now you're out, and Aaron Rodgers. Now some of this stuff is just happens because it's football. It doesn't matter, if you've got a 300-pound dude on top of you, you might get injured no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder, like, is it really worth it? You get that extra game, but you're down 3 stars who bring in fans, who buy jerseys, who buy all this stuff. And I just wonder, um, you know, is this worth it for them? And obviously they must think it is because they're continuing to do it and they're going to advocate for, we'll be at 20 games, a season before we know it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. Like, so Mahomes has played in each of the last 3 preseasons.
Yep.
He's taken snaps. I'm not saying he's played. I don't even think he's in one of them. He played more than like 2 drives.
They gave us the behind the back pass in the preseason.
Yep.
That was pretty dope.
Yeah.
But he's playing. He's getting real game reps, you know.
Yep.
And I don't know. I know Cooper, like in Jamison's instance with the Rams, there, like Cooper was coming off injury, so I don't know. 2 of the last 3 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much reps he even took.
Puka was already dealing with that injury pre week 1, and so it's like
Yeah,
there are certainly cases, you know.
yeah, and I think it. We're not advocating that everybody needs to play a whole bunch in the preseason,
No.
but I think Grant's onto something when he says, "Hey, reps do matter, and getting up to game speed's a big deal before you go to 70 snaps in a game." You know, like that's very a huge need,
Mhm.
especially I think for the offensive players. And I've said that a lot of times. I think the offensive players need it more than the defensive. Defensive players are reactionary in their movement. Offensive players are burst oriented. Quick muscle injuries happen in the burst moments. And I'm not saying that defenses don't do it, but they are reactionary. They're already in motion or can be in motion pre-snap, whereas you have a standstill and these guys flying out of a set spot for unless you have the one guy in motion that we know in the backfield on offense. So, like those muscle injuries do usually incur on those burst motions or the cut route, if you will, on a wide receiver. How many times we watch the ankle go or the hamstring pull on one of those movements? And I think that those motions are incredibly important, and we can't deny that. And I think that if you look at who's hurt right now, by the way, the wide receiver list is long,
Yep.
long. We
Yep.
AJ Cooper, Puka, Debo, like it is long.
CMC,
Higgins has
you
been
can
out.
argue he's a wide receiver.
Yeah, Higgins Jefferson was out.
Yep.
Like, dude, it's ridiculous when you look at the list, and also tight ends. That list is growing right now. Kittle was out this week. You know, it is very accurate. It's very true, and I think it's again pushing for this whole like quantity over quality discussion that you guys are having. Like, it needs to be real. Like, do we love watching football on Thursday? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we look forward to it. That's true.
I'm greedy. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we're greedy fans, but you know what we like more? We like our best players playing.
And healthy.
Being really honest,
Yeah.
Thursday football does kind of suck in that regard. A lot of guys get hurt on Thursdays, and we've seen a ton of that. Trevor Lawrence has famously been hurt twice on Thursdays.
Mark Andrews last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, great
Mhm.
example. Like, genuinely, do we like it? Yes. But do we feel it's necessary? No. Do we like Monday? Sure, we love Monday. You don't need to take Monday away, and I don't think Monday's
No, because Monday's already the worst day ever.
And
So, like,
and Monday works because they just get an extra day off, and
Yeah.
then like you said, that one day doesn't make a huge difference.
It's give take, and a lot of times you have a bye week associated to teams that play on Monday, and so they get an added benefit either prior to or post a Monday game. Like, that's a normal thing if you watch what the NFL does with the schedule, that they work for a lot of teams. And you can call it luck of the draw, garbage, or oh, that's just how it worked out, but it's pretty stinking obvious. Like,
yeah.
49ers got that benefit last year where they had a Sunday off and then didn't play till the next Monday. They had 15 days in between games, so it does happen quite often. But yeah, I again want to just get into the week's games of what happened because there was chaos and madness and all the ridiculousness. This weekend, a game I want to make sure we talk about. I already mentioned the dude's name. I don't know what's going on in Minnesota, but for the love of God, they have coached up,
Dude.
have got something going. The 49er win for Minnesota last week. Brock had a really dumb turnover. There was a couple of just bad plays by the 49ers that enabled, the Vikings to keep their lead when the 49ers were driving. So a little bit of on the Niners, but credit to Sam Darnold just playing consistent ball, not turning it over. Didn't give up anything that he couldn't afford to. The majority of the time, I realized he had a turnover in that game against Niners, but dude, they went in and beat a mostly healthy, team in Houston this week.
Joe Mixon was out, but
yeah, didn't just beat them though.
They manhandled them
30-7.
They made him bench CJ Stroud.
Dude, we have these guys last in the division.
Yeah.
Like we were in pretty solid agreement.
Like
last in the division.
Like we legitimately thought that the injury of JJ McCarthy beginning of the season was like a detriment, to at least in some degree, because we've seen the body of work in Sam Darnold hasn't been that impressive. He's flashed. When he flashes, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is the most talented, physically talented dude on planet Earth. at the quarterback position. But this is just a testament, and something that has been great that we can really highlight over these 3 weeks is coaching. Coaching has been incredible. You've got Kevin O'Connell, who seemed to, reclaim, Sam Darnold. You've got Matt LaFleur coaching a heck of a job through the Jordan Love injury. Did I say right? Did I say Mike LaFleur? Matt LaFleur. Yeah. He's been great.
LaFleur's been amazing.
Andy Reid is, putting himself into a top 3 coach of all time. He can argue that even before the season, but continuing that, there has been just some impressive coaching that has happened. Jim Harbaugh has been impressive.
Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin.
Are you kidding me? How is Justin Fields 3-0?
And we are not high on this team. No. And I'm still really not.
20 points once. They got 3 wins.
They have 3 wins. Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. We
got a rookie coach who's undefeated.
Was good, but they're not turning the ball over.
No. Nope.
And Najee's doing what he needs to do. That 80 to 100 yard gap that you want out of your running back, whether those are all-purpose yards, obviously. George Pickens is picking moments where he makes the play, if you will.
Crucial catch.
What the crud?
That defense is just overwhelmingly disgusting.
And
great coaching though. You're right.
Coaching.
All around, great coaching.
Todd Bowles is doing great. Obviously a dud week this week, but overall, been much better than he was in his stint with New York. Overall, there's been some really great coaching.
Yeah, and I think in teams that aren't winning games right now, we are seeing a lot of those teams taking the L's. It doesn't look like preparedness. Now, I do got to say something in regards to the Bengals. Zach Taylor, we have been hot and cold on quite a bit. Their offense just doesn't it was Joe Mixon that big of a deal?
No.
Because they can't get a rushing game going consistently. They're in and out with both backs all the time. And you look at their yards per carry, both dudes were over 5 this week. Both Moss and I'm going to forget the other dude's name. Help me out.
Chase Brown.
Yes,
right?
Thank you. We're over 5 this week. And I was looking through that box score and I'm just going, what is the stinking problem? But you watch those third downs. I went back and watched the highlights from the game, and third down coaching was not good. New England's facing some of those same issues. To be fair to the Bengals, the NFL did basically state that there was an incorrect call in the Bengals game against New England.
Week 1? Should
have been corrected, and it would have given the Bengals the win, essentially. But, just watching those two teams, not good. I don't know what's going on with Doug Peterson. That doesn't look good at all.
Jacksonville after this week,
a brutal beat last night.
Nick Sirianni, I'm not huge on. I know they're not having the worst time in the world, but
the coaching doesn't look
thumbs
good.
down.
They shouldn't have won that game Sunday. That was a flat out boo boo that let Goddard get released on the sideline and take off a huge play late in the fourth quarter, because that should have been a stop. That was blown coverage.
Well, we didn't even get the chance to talk about the week prior where Barkley drops that pass, and it's like,
tell me about it.
Why is that even the coaching decision to begin with?
Yeah, we got way too conservative. Cost him that game. In his play calling,
Well, I actually should have been more conservative. If you run the ball, you run the clock, you actually probably get the first down, because Barkley is a beast, and he's not really known to be a receiving running back. Ask any Giants fan. And then also, if he doesn't execute, the clock stops. So you're giving the team a free timeout at a higher risk than a handoff up the middle. So it's just like, and sure enough, comes back to
second down. Should have eaten the clock. Second down would have done it, and or at least taken it down to where there wasn't an opportunity. And if you don't know the situation of that one, that's a go back and check it out. I don't want to get into it, but legit, there was some coaching issues there. Theirs is, and I would say Eagles offense and the way it's running right now, clearly not where it needs to be yet.
It's not very creative.
Your number 1's down, and now your number 2's down, and you got a 30-whatever-year-old tight end that is sure hands and gets you a play now and then, like you did Sunday, but they are not pieces
has been
wise
turning the
where they
ball
can
over.
move it.
Yeah, yes.
So yeah. So there's, I mean, again, it's the injury bug is still real. I know we don't love Sirianni. Okay, none of us love Sirianni. He's a soundbite and he's fun. But you know, it's that injury thing's real. Speaking of injuries, you know, I was watching a little bit of, or well, paying attention to that Lions Cardinals game, and then went back and watched some highlights on that. Do you guys see that Ragnow torn pec?
I did see
Their
that.
their center, all pro center. That's a brutal loss. 49ers also lost Javon Hargrave to the exact same thing this last. Well, no, I think this is a triceps. But
I think it
he's
was.
done
I
for
think it
the
was a
season,
tricep.
right?
yeah,
Hargrave.
Hargrave is likely the season.
Like, yeah, I think that's what I saw was likely.
Is the
Yeah.
season, which is brutal because that offensive line was built to last, man.
Best O line in the league. Like, I would take that league over any O line.
You know who you take that O line for sure over is their division opponent. Did you see that stinking picture of the Chicago Bears offensive line?
I sent it to you guys. It was hilarious.
Mother of God.
It is there. All of them are on the ground, and there's 8 Colts defenders in Caleb Williams' face. Or the running back. I think it was the play where he pitched it to the running back.
Life.
Dude. I'm gonna say it. Shane Waldron is terrible. If we want to talk about head coach, like last year, we just blasted Matt Canada because he deserved it. Through 3 weeks into the season, Shane Waldron has had some of the dumbest, most inconsistent, just situational, terrible calls. And he had that with Seattle, like most of the season. He'd have a couple good flashes, like, oh, that motion, there's some trickery here and there. But then he just he's going lateral at the 1 yard line, backed up the one going lateral instead of forward. It's like, what is going on with some of these play calls and these decisions? I'm like, that's the Shane Waldron experience, my friend. He probably honestly does not last through the season. Like, I'm gonna put my money on it. He's terrible.
They are not. I mean, they just cannot move the ball consistently at all. And this is not a rookie quarterback issue, like you're saying. It's a play calling issue. When you talk about the lateral movement, I watched a couple of those plays, and I'm like, and it has that the Debo flair, if you will.
Sure.
So Niners run that scheme all the time, where they'll run inside the 20 with Debo, and a lot of times it's a jet sweep or whatnot. But the Niners break it into a zone, so like it's zone blocking, and Debo's got 3 options on his cut. When you watch the Bears run that almost exact play, it's either a trap where he's just supposed to cut up, and that's it. So if the D lineman pulls or stays on contain, and they're able to plug one gap, he's dead.
Well, and also,
or if they Bears contain through and push up, dude, he has nowhere to go.
And on the Bears point, like, no disrespect to Odunze, Allen, or Moore, they don't have Debo. Like, Debo's that kind of player who makes that a viable play for them.
Sure.
Like let's just like he's a big part of to why they can make those plays and other teams can't.
Yeah, it's a playmaker, but also, to your point about Waldron, it's design. You can't give these guys just one option at the 1 yard line or at the 4 when you're asking them for that kind of movement, and also doing it with the slowest motion. Like the trigger pull on there is pathetic. I mean, the dude's not streaking. He's like jogging right in front of the quarterback, and he's trying to like receive the ball right there. I mean, there was nowhere to go when that defensive lineman or the defensive end there took the outside edge on the play you're talking about at the 1. There was literally nowhere for him to go. Just stupid stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like you're really counting on one offensive lineman. And by the way, 3 plays earlier, your quarterback was laying on his butt and had gotten murdered. Why would you count on that same right tackle who caved on that side to be able to hold the edge on this play? I agree with you. Like that. Stupid things, but was on another rookie quarterback flip side. We got to talk about some positives here. First, I'll start with the Bo Nix bounce back for Denver. Finally, first downs. Finally, some points on the board consistently.
Finally, some yards after catch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
finally, breaking tackles.
Doing some stuff with the ball, as me and Jamison in particular, me and Grant in particular, sorry, Jamison, are Bo Nix people, as a
not I
Duck. 6'4" and 225 pounds, needs to be able to hold his own in the pocket a little bit and rely on these guys to get something done. Denver also third or fourth in the league right now in drops. Was not helping the cause, if you will. So, but super glad to see him get some numbers this week and play some good ball.
Upsets the Bucks. Like the Bucks were 2-0, looking
Yeah,
great, and kind
yeah,
of blanked them.
me look real bad in one fantasy league where I definitely started Baker and Evans, and I pulled the likes of Jonathan Taylor out and Brock Purdy this week. Um,
Yeah.
my bad.
That's unfortunate.
But I also, we need to give a lot of credit. I was having a big football discussion with a bunch of guys local here and today, and there's this guy in Washington.
Jane Daniels, baby.
Deserves a little recognition in week 3.
Dude.
Speaking of the Bengals, played a heck of a game last night. Jaden Daniels is, you guys, he legit might be a guy. The connection with Scary Terry is finally starting to develop. Had a big play last night with him. Daniels with his feet getting it done. He might have small ankles, but he's getting some dubs out in Washington.
That deep ball is something.
It's a thing.
Finally.
That one
Scary
at the end
Terry
of the game when
he's
getting slammed in the pocket, puts it back in the corner for McLaurin. On third and long to ice the game, because it's basically we go to fourth down, we kick the field goal, but let's give them a go route. And I don't know if you guys saw, Scary Terry was interviewed and said he told them like, "Hey, give me this go route," and they said, "Okay."
Yeah, dude.
For the first time in his life, he's now catching a ball like in stride, right in the basket, making plays that matter. It's
not having to adjust, his whole entire body to make this catch an inch from the ground.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool. And those deep balls, they have a deep ball connection. They connected for at least a couple of them last night, so that was cool.
Let's make sure we give him full credit with the stats here. 91.3% of his passes last night, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, like you said, including the game sealing 27-yarder. McLaurin ends up with 4 catches for 100. By the way, I don't know if he had a catch until right before the end of the first half. So that developed. I personally love that. They went to the well in the biggest moments, and and Scary Terry calling it out and saying, "Just give me the ball. Like this is the route I'm running. Do it. You can make that throw. Let's go." And just backyard football. Love that.
And we've had our fair share of things to say over the years about Cliff Kingsbury, but
maybe he's just meant to be a OC. Some guys they just need to call plays.
People were giving him a hard time, and I think he was well deserving at times, but calling it a college offense and all of this stuff, and Washington already, it's just kind of Washington, the history of Washington. And Dan Quinn too, like that. I mean,
yeah,
on both of those guys' accounts, wasn't sure if they'd be able to get it done again.
Have had their ups and downs.
Yeah, I feel like they had their chances and wasn't sure if this was going to work out. And then again, Jaden Daniels, I was maybe a little bit higher on him, but still, like the physical aspect of this guy's got twigs for legs, and like I don't know what to expect. They've some of the guys on that team kind of on washed watch, and here they are. They're dropping dimes, putting up points, and winning football games. It is not what I expected to see. But it's a pleasant surprise because I think it's nice to have some of these teams, and again, it's early, but show a little something early on to be like, okay, maybe things can be shaken up a little bit. There's always teams that, can't repeat and make it into the playoffs and somebody else comes in, but it seems like there's a handful of them this year, and it's kind of making games exciting because I don't know who's going to be popping off, and it turns out it's the Commanders.
Well, I was saying in this division, I think everyone's at least a game within each other. I mean, obviously it's still week 3, but the Cowboys are 1-2.
We're actually 2 games out from you guys. Everybody's 1-2 in the West.
Oh, well,
you guys are 3-0.
But anyway, but what I mean though is for the Commanders, maybe they can steal the division. Who knows? With Cowboys aren't playing great. Eagles, we're not too confident. Eagles, they've got some question marks. The Giants have Daniel Jones as quarterback. He had a great week, but he's still Daniel Jones. And I'm not gonna magically forget, what we've seen the last, 6 years.
No reason to.
or
No
5 years.
reason
But
Maybe
yeah,
maybe this is a Texans situation from last year.
where they just kind of show up,
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey guys,
riding the wave of the rookie
like,
quarterback.
yeah, how's it going, guys? By the way, you didn't really like think about us, but we're here."
Well,
Yeah.
before we get off this game, we got to mention two things about it. One, you guys were talking about those coaches. Let's not forget who's quarterback whispering right now for Washington. That's Kingsbury, the former Arizona Cardinals head coach.
Mhm.
You saw him on the sideline post a couple of those big throws as the initial congratulator, and also talking him through the next drive. You know, I I think that's a huge thing. There are three head coaches on that coaching staff,
Yeah.
guys that have been in the seat but are now in their specialties, whether it is as the head coach or coordinating or quarterback coach. So I like that a lot. Also 87 years of football passed without a game without a game making it through, not having a punt or turnover. That game was the first game with no punts or turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
It's in 4 quarters of football. It's happened actually
80s.
before in
Yeah.
games that have been suspended, but not in a 4 quarter game in 87 years. That does tell me that both defenses clearly need some work.
Yeah.
And the Bengals obviously more so.
They
But
could not get off the field.
Washington kind of has some of those we're going to bring up Dan Quinn on this, those Cowboys type procedures where they will give up the chunks of yards, but not necessarily 7 on the scoreboard. So that you can see some real similarities there in the way that they're playing. But dude, that is a hilarious stat.
Mm-hmm.
87 years.
And to piggyback on that one too, I was telling Grant kind of before we started because he kind of brought up a similar stat, but the Bengals also the first team to lose when they have 0 turnovers, 0 punts, and score 30 plus points.
Yeah. Wasted a good
So
game by the offense
double whammy,
overall.
double whammy.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow can hate on that defense all he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor Britt, maybe it's time to just zip the lip for a second.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, a lot of bit. I don't understand, dude. What are you doing calling people out? Like, shut your.
Yeah. Now you guys are 0-3. Not that it's like
with the
exclusively your
Titans
fault,
and the
but still.
Jaguars.
Yeah.
Like that's
Not great company.
He's on a win right now.
Yeah.
Preach that. That is the company you're in. Will Levis, the walking meme,
dude. Every week a new image.
Clown Town, and you.
Which another quick stat to that, again, the thing that I was talking with Grant about, 0-3 in the Super Bowl era is a bit of a death sentence in a way.
Yep.
255 teams have started 0-3 and only 6 have gone on to make the playoffs in the Super Bowl era. So it's obviously not a 0% chance, but if you're the Bengals and you think that, you're a team that should be contending and maybe you think you're a good 0-3, you're still 0-3, and at some point, as I've said before in other seasons with some teams, it just becomes a math problem. So sorry, but we're already, knocking on the door. You got to turn around right now, or else it's essentially going to be a 0% chance.
Because we're only talking, we're 1 month away from them making a real interesting decision when it comes to T. Higgins.
Yep.
Like, you got to start winning some football games because that dude, you don't have he's playing under the tag, and you got to make a choice on what you're going to do with that dude if you're going to be a real contender. Say they go 2-2 this next month. I don't know that you're thinking about that guy in a roster.
Interesting thing here, I was just double checking. They play Carolina this week, which I think is actually kind of an interesting game. Because Dalton just came in and became the first 300-yard, 3 TD passer of the season, and that Bengals defense is not looking great.
It's terrible.
And so there is it's a non-zero chance here
Red Rifle, baby,
that this team could go 0-4.
So, we all know the meme, but Andy Dalton has the opportunity to do
the funny, yeah,
absolutely,
exactly. And that's why I was like, okay, that's kind of a game I'm going to keep in mind because I normally wouldn't care, but there's a real possibility since he can fall to 0-4, almost a bit of a trap game, but also a must-win. So just something to look after.
I think it would be hilarious. I will be watching just to see if it happens. Like,
Yeah.
And I think we all had the Bengals like doing stuff in the postseason. So it's just like again, it's a
playoff team.
nobody knows anything the first few weeks, who's good, who's bad. But again, if you
Yeah.
fall 0-4, already 0-3, it's
So
hard to rebound
I
from.
have actual stats for you about what your playoff chances are. So if you're 1-2, which a lot of teams are, there's a good amount of teams, you have a 25 since 1990, so about 25 years, you have a 25.1% chance of making the playoffs at 1-2. So like it's doable, right? You can make up a lot of ground, make up games. If you start 0-3, you have a 2.5% chance of making the playoffs.
It seems bad.
That's yeah, I'm not taking that. Like
Mm-hmm.
especially in this division where you have a team who's 3-0, like your only path would probably be to try and win the division. Like you probably can't get in a wild card.
And if you're 0-4, I'm sure that it gets exponentially smaller if it even
Oh,
lists it.
it's probably less than 1%.
It's got to be.
Yeah, it's way less. Yeah. So yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
Not looking good. Who it is looking good for right now is we've mentioned some 3-0 teams, but not necessarily this one. w- I don't want to do this conspiracy crap.
Oh, I
Okay,
know. Yeah, I know you're going. Yep.
I don't believe in it technically, but it is hard. It is getting so hard to not buy just a little bit of it because for the second time already this season, the Chiefs, who are now 3-0, seem to have gotten away with another one. Obviously, if you're watching the game and you're paying attention this weekend, you saw the clear defensive pass interference on the Chiefs in the end zone.
Against the
That
Falcons.
called.
Yep.
And on ensuing drive, I will say the Chiefs did get 3 penalties called on them.
Little makeup there. They're like, yeah, well, that's a
Yeah,
maybe.
but 2 of those 3 were just as blatant as the defensive pass interference.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ignore everything.
Yeah.
I, guys, like legit end of game, this team cannot get out of controversy, and it does seem like every single time it goes their way.
And what's frustrating is they don't need it. They don't.
They're really
Patrick Mahomes is it is the Tom Brady effect. Like he is the like
he's in the GOAT conversation.
yeah, like
We've said it.
they don't need the refs to help them and give them or not give them these certain calls. Like Patrick Mahomes can do it by himself. He doesn't need it. But yet it seems like the refs are just involving themselves in something they don't need to, or I guess in this case, not involving themselves. Because if you're a Chiefs fan and you're trying to say it's not, argue with the wall, argue with the freaking wall. If you don't think wasn't PI, like it clearly is.
We've heard it all this week. We've already heard this case made on other shows. We listened to lots of things, and we ourselves have already said it. If we're being really honest, and it was switched, and that is Mr. Kelsey in the end zone.
That's getting called.
In the world that call doesn't get made.
Absolutely.
There's no,
and that's before Taylor Swift.
In that end zone, there's no way that doesn't get called.
Right.
How in the world is it that call does not get made against the Chiefs in that situation at the end of the game with America watching? I just don't dude, we know that's going to happen if Kelsey was in the end zone. We know it.
Yep.
It's so hard not to call it favoritism. I'm not sitting here whining as a 49er fan who has, yes, questioned those calls. And I think
the biggest game of the year.
In the biggest game of the year, there was some stuff clearly missed. The chokehold one on Mr. Bosa specifically for me. But dude, what are we doing? Oh, hey Grant, what's up?
I'm trying to mess with my camera a little bit. Wigging out on me.
It is getting real hard not to look at that. And we watched the tail of the tape over the course of this year, and it feels like we're just going to see this again.
Well, you have that, and then you have stats like Patrick Mahomes has thrown 56 interceptions that have been called back because of penalties, and the second closest is Aaron Rodgers at 17. Dude, you can't. I'm not even looking at something and trying to make it a subjective point. I'm literally pulling up numbers and showing you that there is absolute favoritism happening.
And for those of you that want to come at us with, well, him and Aaron are the ones who are famous for jumping when there's an offsides and just chucking it down the field. So maybe he knew those penalties were there. it's actually only like 4 of those were offsides.
And also when the
So
difference is 40 touchdowns, is 40
it's
interceptions,
a little significant.
40. Like, come on. Like, yeah. So
Yeah, I know we can go down that rabbit trail forever, but it's a real thing that we're going to be paying attention to, unfortunately, again this season, it looks like.
yeah.
And 2 of those 3 wins already for the currently undefeated Chiefs. Pretty big controversy in those. I know we've mentioned this game a couple of times, and we want to hit it before we get to our questions. 49ers with a 14-point lead in the second half, falling to the Rams.
Yes,
Somebody
sir.
texted me after the game. My boss texted me after the game, and he goes, "What just happened?" And I said very clearly, I was like, 4 really bad football plays by one team.
Yeah.
Because the 49ers clearly in control the majority of this game. Anybody with eyes sees that. And then as it gets into the fourth quarter, a missed field goal, a bomb from
Right after.
Tutu Atwell, who was
Sets it
playing
up.
on a bum ankle too. Good for him on that catch. And a blown defensive assignment, I'd say on that too, and then a punt return that a literally I wanted to punch the broadcaster through the screen for
She
calling
literally
it right
like
before it
jinxed it.
happened. I was like, "Shut your stupid mouth!" He's like, "This guy's been waiting for his opportunity," and then he
Yep.
takes off
Yep.
on the sideline. I'm
Yep.
like, "Of course he does." And then again, a blown defensive assignment by a linebacker. That's Parkinson, right? That caught that pass.
Cody Parkinson. Yep.
Yeah,
Former Seahawk
it
legend.
puts him
That's
in
right.
range to get the
Helping out the
win.
Niners lose. Let's go.
But he was asking me how I felt the next morning. He went into work yesterday and he's like, "How you doing?" And he's an unfortunate Raiders fan, so he
Oof.
already had a bad Sunday. But
Respect though. Respect for the choice.
yeah, seriously.
Going through a lot.
But he also watches the show, so shout out to my boss. But I told him, I said, "Hey, we also last year lost the game early on because of our kicker missing a field
Oh, the
goal."
Browns, right?
Yep, Browns game last year on the road, and I was like, it's early. We got a lot of injuries right now. Obviously, the Hargrave one's a blow to us, and we're waiting for CMC. But realistically, we scored 24 points. Should have been 27, easy. It could have been more than that. But as a fan, I'm like, hey man, just a lot of injuries. Debo was out, Kittle was out, and then Hargrave was playing with a torn muscle there in the last 2 series. They should have pulled him, and they didn't. And he finally pulled himself, but that is what it is. No hate on Matthew Stafford. Played a much better second half than he did the first half, and they took some deep shots and connected. So
Yeah.
you don't get any of the chances that you don't take, and
And
those were some big jumps.
yeah, and from my perspective, that was definitely not only a must win for us early on for many reasons, one of them being the kiss of 0-3 death, whatever you want to call it. Like again, much harder to dig yourself out of that 0-3 hole, especially considering how good the NFC West is right now, or seemingly. I know 3 of those teams are 1-2, and the Seahawks are 3-0, but those are all teams that have been playing some pretty good ball, and in our cases, Matt, like obviously devastating injuries across the board offensively. But I was pretty happy with what we were able to do offensively, considering that, yes, obviously with Hargrave, and that whole situation for the Niners defensively, otherwise had a lot of their guys there. And so for us to seemingly pull that game out of the depths, and steal one without having Nakua, with having a Swiss cheese offensive line. Also, obviously, no Cup here. Kyron Williams having a really big day.
Yeah.
That was really good to see. And then to have our special teams actually do something again. And rookie kicker, Cardi B, Cardi 3, whatever I want to call him. I'm
That's right.
workshopping his name.
There you go.
But rookie kicker, and then Stafford just staying in, being that dude, delivering the ball where it needs to. Other guys coming up big. And uh, our defense is pretty atrocious right now, especially our passing defense, but they stepped up when they needed to. And I was in shock. I did not expect. I had actually planned on maybe turning that game off, especially if we're like, okay, you guys you make that field goal there. Um, but then when you go from a field goal to a bomb, like you just said, the whole game kind of flipped around,
Yep.
and that's really what gave us a chance, and we were able to hang out in the end. I will say, as a football nerd, and I think this, for a couple of reasons, is probably why this was some of our game of the week here, despite the loss for you guys. You being mad, I guess Mike's not here yet. Um, it's really cool to see McVay and Shanahan when they basically just have like chess pieces and like a couple of dudes still. Obviously, like we have Stafford and Kyron Williams and Brock Purdy was balling, and um, but it was like you get to watch these guys just kind of move the pieces and play the game as the coach, instead of relying on some of the extra talent to maybe just go out and make a play. So it's really fun to watch that unfold in real time. It's like a chess match, and I always just appreciate that about the matchup. So for once, the firepower is gone on both sides, um, and and a game that actually kind of matters. Last year we had a game similar to that where it mattered for us to beat you guys, but it was a meaningless game in the sense that like people were resting players and what have you. So, um, but yeah, must win for us. NFC West is going to be a very, very interesting division. Three teams at 1-2, one at 3-0. I expect that to kind of normalize, but I think Grant, you kind of hit it spot on in our preseason chat where you said this. I think the teams are going to go 3-3 with each other and split all these wins because Cardinals are sneaky good, and then us three, we kind of always battle that one out. But yeah, I felt really good about that one. Really needed it. It might be the win that kind of keeps us alive until guys start coming back from IR. So we really needed that one.
Funniest part about the game for me was watching the hilarity. You talked about the chess match of McVay just not running defensive players at Trent Williams. Like
Yeah.
literally, Trent Williams stood there on, I counted 9 plays with no one to block because they just ran the other way or just said,
Yeah.
you know what, you're not going to be able to do anything. So they backed a dude up into coverage.
If it's going to be a wash down there anyways, may as well take that other guy and move him somewhere else. Be useful.
Literally just see multiple plays where his hands are up and he's just shuffling his feet and there's nobody near him. I just thought it was the funniest. I'm like
Uh,
watching that multiple times over, and my buddy here that I work with didn't believe me. He's like, "No, like nobody," and I'm like, "No, watch this." And I went and pulled up the offensive plays for the Niners, and I showed him like 6 different ones where he just had nobody run at him, and it was
mhm.
that is really funny. I have not seen
That's
anyone
good.
try that. Now, did it hose you guys twice? Yes, like really
Yes.
bad. but
Yes.
but on those other plays, I mean, you were able to get pressure on the sides and at least force Brock, which isn't always the best move. You don't want Brock running.
He squirmed out of a couple of those, and I was about to lose it. We had that one. I think it was actually right before the field goal that got missed that would have knocked you guys out of field goal range,
I
and
thought
I
he was.
was losing my mind.
Oh, I was like, no, that's out of field goal range. No, no, and then like all of a sudden
Yeah.
he's breaking down. That yeah, Brock, you don't want him running the ball. That is just, it is a bad thing. As a 49er fan, I also don't want him running the ball. I don't mind him running and throwing the ball. He does real well at that. So,
And
but
by
it
the
was
way, Juwan Jennings, got to shout him out for that game as well.
that was
Okay.
the most Moss catch in a non-Moss jersey,
Oh,
bro.
that about did it for me. I was like, should I just turn this off for a little bit?
What
That's how this one's going.
10 or 12? Was it 12? And like 170 some yards. Dude, he had
And 3 touchdowns. The only guy since Jerry Rice to do that in a Niners uniform.
yeah, 40 plus fantasy points from
Yep.
wide receiver.
Well,
I
like
would
42 and a half. Like 42 and a half. Was that what it was? Something like
yeah,
that.
if you're in half, if you're a halfer, if you're a full point PPR, I mean, he was at like 40, whatever. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
try and do that math. Another 6 points. So, yeah, 48, whatever.
I
So
do want to say real quick before we move on from that, that is the kind of thing that will pay dividends for you guys later in the season, though, because in the same way where we didn't have Cup at the beginning of last season, that's kind of how we figured out that like, oh, Puka Nacua is kind of a guy, and then we can have both of them. That's amazing. When you hit a point later in the season, and again, I know he did well in the Super Bowl for you guys in postseason last year already, and he's not a new guy, but now you know that like, oh, like now we have 3 options if Ayuk's going to drop a ball or if Debo's going to miss a game.
Yeah.
That's going to pay dividends later in the season. It just sucks that him and Purdy were balling and it didn't turn out to be a dub.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So obviously, letting you guys say your piece because it was your teams. Um, obviously, I was talking with Jamison on Saturday. I was like, honestly, I don't know who I want to win because it's like Rams can go 0-3, and I hate the Rams, so that'd be great. But also, you bring the Niners down to 1-2, and then everyone's 1-2. Um, but I think as someone who doesn't watch a lot of Niner games, like I don't watch every game, I watch highlights, things like that. I thought for all the Brock Purdy haters, and I've been a hater, but I've been a skeptic at times. He proved everyone wrong. All of the hang up of, oh well, he's got the Avengers, he's got CMC, he's got all these guys. Bro just threw for almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns with Juwan Jennings, who, for all intents and purposes, seems to be a guy and has been a guy in moments. But overall,
A monster.
like he's still the wide receiver 3. Like they were down, and like Brandon Ayuk is just it doesn't exist right now apparently. And so like
Hit 5.
sure, but again, Juwan Jennings,
on that open one at the end of the game.
yeah,
Not bad.
yeah, but like for all his first, like I think this was the most impressive game he's played, and it is unfortunate to what Jamison said that like Brock Purdy and Juwan Jennings both balled out of their minds and ends in a loss, and like no one's gonna care. But I think he proved I was wrong. I think he absolutely like is showing that he is the guy for this offense who will make the plays when it's needed, and that's all you can ask of a quarterback. Honestly, like again, I've said it multiple times. Like we are enamored by the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, all that kind of stuff. And like I don't think he's that, but I also think that he's a top 10. He's probably 7 or 8. Best quarterback in this league. I think he's great, and I think he proved I was wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take that as the only win that I got this weekend. So I'll take that he convinced Grant, even after the whole like Detroit Lions and the playoffs thing, still didn't get you there, huh?
No, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying like to me this was everything that the haters wanted to see.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, no, and
Yeah, a blown lead.
he
Well,
will.
yeah.
I mean, going into this game, by the way, he was leading the league in passing yards. He still is.
I believe Dak Prescott
I
is.
think he's just ahead of him. We were
Is
looking
Dak just ahead of him now?
I think just a
Yeah.
little bit.
Oh.
But I think
Because
he's
three
number-
of them come from the West. It's Purdy, Geno, Stafford, and then the other 2 guys is Dak at 1 and then Hurts at 4.
Well, I mean, we don't really have time to jump into the Cowboys, but forget them. They suck.
Yes, sir.
28-25, and we all know that game should have been a lot worse than it was, but Lamar Jackson only threw the ball like 19 times. So forget him. We will have plenty of time for the Cowboys hate later. I know that we need to get into our pick'em, and we can shift right down there because I think we hit pretty much everything else other than making fun of Bryce Young and or Trevor Lawrence, which we'll probably have some more time to do.
Yeah.
That needs to be a conversation that we sit on for another day when we talk a little bit more good or bad quarterback type of roulette, if you will.
Yeah.
But Grant, what do you got for us this week?
All right. First, I want to say it because we didn't have the opportunity. There was pick'em history last week.
Oh yeah, it was the worst week I've ever had.
Matt went 0-5. Matt did not win us.
1-4.
You went 0-5.
No.
You went 0. You went 0-5. You picked the chart. You picked the Broncos over the Steelers. Legitimately. I texted in our group chat. I've erased it. But you picked the Broncos over the Steelers. That was what we had written down.
It's the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
No, I'm just saying. I have to point it out. You went 0-5. We all went. I think the best person went 2-3. I don't know. I think Mike went 2-3. I went like 1-4. Jameson 1-4. It was a bad week last week. This week was not much better.
You did you piece of poop.
Yeah. But last week's not much better. So our
I
standings
Mike
right
and I think Mike and I were the same. He changed to the Niners.
now. Oh, last week. Yeah. But anyway, so
He said I'm switching my Rams to the 49ers in our text chain because I was like, me and Mike had the same score from last week.
yeah, I got it right.
Oh, but you said he went 2-3 and I went 1-4, and now I'm confused.
No,
and we
I
had the
don't
same.
remember what it was exactly, but I promise you I got them right. I went
Either
through.
way, tough week.
Tough week. Last week was not. This week was not that much better. But that being said, our first game of the week, our first game this week. Again, kind of filling out some teams. This could go either way. We've got the Saints at the Falcons. Um, both teams again. We're just trying to feel out. Is Derek Carr turning back into a pumpkin? After a bad week, after a hot start. We're gonna go Matt. Who you got? Saints at the Falcons.
We're gonna go Falcons.
Okay.
And I think it's just a real simple case of um, Saints came out hot, and I think they're going to get figured out a little bit. Not to say that Kubiak's doing a bad job. He isn't. He's got that. He's had that offense humming, but Falcons have been playing tough football, period. And I'll just take them at home. I
Yep.
like that pick.
Okay. I'm going Falcons as well. I like Kirk Cousins better. I do still like Bijan better than I think Kamara's played great. I like Bijan a little more. I like some of the defensive pieces a little more, and they're at home. So I'm going Falcons as well. How about you, Jameson?
Yeah, it's going to be Falcons for me. You guys already know.
Yeah, Saints hater.
Yeah, I love to fade the Saints. But in this case, yeah, it's Derek Carr pumpkin time. It's a yearly tradition. The fall equinox hits, and then Derek Carr forgets how to play football. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
Although Kamara probably for around 15 to 20 fantasy points because holy crap, that dude's been winning me some games.
Yeah. They
He's shown
definitely
up.
have their flashes. I just don't find it sustainable. And I do think the Falcons have played tough in the games that they have lost for the most part.
They very easily could be 3-0.
Yeah.
Very easily.
Probably should have
Yep.
beat the Chiefs.
Yep.
Yep.
It should probably definitely be 2-1 for sure. Yeah. Mike sent his picks in. He has the Saints. So he's kind of hoping to maybe get a game on us there.
Well,
What's that?
he's wrong. It's fine.
Yeah. So next up we've got the Eagles at the Buccaneers. We'll go up from the bottom of the top here. Bucks hosting the Eagles for a playoff matchup last year, I believe. Is that last year? Yep. So
Yeah, and the Bucks gave it to him.
yeah, it's true. Mike has the Eagles. Jameson,
I'm going with the Bucks here.
going with the Bucks. Okay.
Yep. I already claimed that I don't believe the Eagles are going to be making the playoffs this year. I still feel that's a possibility. I don't really like their squad, and Devontae Smith is also now gone, and that offense is already looking like it's a little rough. And it's not in Philadelphia, so I don't feel as bad about the environment there for Baker, and I think they're going to bounce back. Bucks all the way for me.
Yep. I'm going Bucks as well. I just don't believe in Dallas Goedert being the pass catching guy. Like, obviously had a great game, that kind of stuff, and shown he can, but like, you don't got AJ Brown or Devonta Smith. Like, that's a big deal for me. And Jalen Hurts has had a lot of turnovers. He is turning the ball over. I don't like that. This Buck secondary is pretty opportunistic. They've got Winfield, they've got a couple other guys. So I'm going Bucks. How about you, Matt?
I'm also going Bucks with you guys. Mine's just due to the injuries with the Eagles. I mean, you get your two targets out. I think that's a huge part of it. And the part that you just mentioned in Hurts' turnovers, dude, you don't got your two top targets. Like, I just feel like you're more susceptible to the guys that you're not when you don't have the guys you're counting on. Also, one more time, do expect a bazillion points from Barkley.
Dude, he's been amazing.
I have Barkley, Henry, and Josh Allen all on the same team.
Dude,
that's my A-League squad.
How did somebody allow that to happen?
I don't listen. I've been daring 29 of you to come after me for years and come beat me in this league. I am currently 3-0, leading the points in the A-League and in first place where I belong. Mike is 0-3 with the fewest points in the league and in 10th place currently. I am talking all the trash and telling everybody to bring it. Let's go.
Dude, I've got Barkley and I've got James Cook. So both those guys have and Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf. So those two wide receivers average me 20 points a game, and then Cook and Barkley getting me 30. like pretty much every week.
My other main squad has Kamara and Cook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chopping block.
Yeah. No,
Having
it's
fun in there.
yep. I'm 3-0. I'm loving it.
Yeah, but anyway, taking the Bucks. I wanted to make sure I got my fantasy,
Yeah.
my
Flex.
bragging out
So
there.
Matt, since we're staying, do you want to flex a little bit about what you believe will happen in our third game, Commanders at Cardinals?
Jaden Daniels is going to keep playing football and he's going to win football games. And if you're not watching, you need to be watching because he's terrifying with the ball in his hand all the time. And it's super fun to watch. And the Cardinals suck. Their defense is horrible. So I'm going to say this is going to be like mid 30s for Washington and probably high 20s for the Cardinals because they will score some points too.
Yeah.
And we just saw that
They
obviously
don't have a great defense either.
Washington's going to give up yards and some points. But yeah, I like them for like a 35-28 here.
Yeah, I'm a believer of the Commanders to score points. Jaden Daniels, baby. I'm gonna ride it till the wheels fall off. How about you, Jameson?
Come on, Jamison's going to break it right here. He's going to be different. This is the game where Jamison does it.
I will say this one is a little tougher for me because I do think that the Cardinals have been not. I think this might be the most fun game to watch, or like one of the more fun games to watch this weekend, given what those offenses are looking like and kind of the quarterback types too, guys that can make plays in a lot of different ways, bomb the ball downfield, but also just escape, rush. It, I, but I'm really, really torn on this one because I like where the Commanders are going. I like how the Cardinals have been fighting in these games. But I think the Cardinals home field advantage doesn't really do it for me if that's going to be that close. And so because of that, I'm gonna roll with the hot hand, if you will, coming off a big win. I'm gonna say Commanders take this one.
Okay, dude. Okay, so currently Mike is against us in every way.
Yeah, we are either
So
a great week or Mike is going to murder.
Yeah,
And
that
this-
was also
and-
part of me wanting to zag there because this could go very poorly. And I also don't want to just match you guys, step for step here, but we could get hosed pretty hard.
I think this next one's going to break us up.
I think the next two might, just based on what I know how people are feeling, and so that's why I picked this one. So okay, so obviously Mike went Cardinals on that one, and then so the next game we have is Bills at Ravens. I was toying with a toilet bowl game. We had the Titans and the Dolphins. But I feel
fun too.
like just throw on a bad game every once in a while because that's gonna be terrible to watch. But I just figured the Ravens at least did win. They kind of almost choked it away there at the end to the Cowboys. And the Ravens have played close in these games against the Chiefs. Like they're an inch away. They're an inch away from being 2-1. So Mike has the Ravens. He's got the Ravens bouncing back. Evening up to 2-2 this week against the Bills, the Red Hot Bills, who absolutely just, by the way, just absolutely just eviscerated the Jaguars Monday Night Football. Josh Allen's playing insane. So Mike's got the Ravens though, taking care of business at home. Jameson, how you feeling?
I am going to go with the Bills here.
Okay.
I'm going to do it.
Okay.
And to be honest, I've mentioned it over the years a couple of times here. I'm a bit of a Harbaugh skeptic, just a little bit.
Yep.
But I'm also very concerned with how that defense has kind of fallen flat and how their special teams is falling apart. The GOAT is missing 46 yarders. Harbaugh's supposed to be the special teams coach. Special teams is falling apart. Their defense isn't what it was. Offense is a little lacking. Harbaugh, what are you doing for this team right now? So I'm going to go with the Bills. Plus, the Bills are just cooking right now. I think Josh Allen is on a mission, kind of similar to the Chiefs getting rid of Tyreek Hill and saying, all right, now what? And then the Chiefs went off and cooked. I think it's kind of a similar trajectory for the Bills right here. So I'm going to ride with
Nick
the Bills.
Wright, huh? Watching some Nick Wright.
Is that what he said?
Oh yeah, that was what he was. Yeah, that's what he was comparing the Bills to this year.
Oh yeah, it's like eerily similar, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, come on, Mr. Downer. Do it.
Mr. Downer? How am I a downer?
You're always downer. What are you talking about?
my heart says one thing and then statistics say the other. This
Hmm?
Bills defense is so good, guys. It is so good. And they're playing fast and playing for
Without,
real.
without Milano.
Without Milano. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and this offense is just seems balanced for the first time since Josh Allen's been there, where he doesn't need to be Superman. Um, but I think the Ravens need this more. And I would bank on the Ravens getting a win over the Bills going 4-0. Like I feel like there's just some like something's got to give. Um, and just for the sake of the pick, I'm going to go Ravens. All right, Matt.
I'm going Ravens too. Let's do it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I
The
know.
Ravens definitely need it for sure.
Look,
Yeah.
this is me playing the game here. To be honest with you, I want to pick the Bills real bad. Josh
Yep.
Allen threw touchdown passes to four different receivers. Looks like the best player in the league at the moment. At the moment, and but I got to remind myself of two things. One, he beat the Dolphins while Tua was injured, and he just destroyed probably the worst team in the league. 40
Definitely.
on Monday Night Football.
Well, that
Uh,
O line is definitely one of the worst for sure.
yes, but I
Their
mean,
defense still look tragic.
Yeah.
the Jags look. Oh, I mean, well, and they just lost another starting defensive back, and possibly 6 to 8 weeks.
And have
So
we forgotten that Trayvon Walker, first overall pick, bust alert?
massive.
Sure seemed like it. Especially
Uh,
when you got Aiden Hutchinson, who's leading the leagues in sacks right now.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I think it's more of a matter of like what the Bills have been playing, and they're making bad teams look bad.
Yeah.
But I think the Ravens are way better than they had been playing, and getting that dub Sunday I think is a big deal. So I'll take the Ravens mostly for the home field advantage, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. All right. In the last game, we got Monday Night Football. Two Monday Night Football games, which again we've talked about. Jamison and I, that's stupid. There should only be one. But
Hate it.
we've got some playoff implications potentially. We've got two teams that might be making the playoffs. We've got the Seahawks at the Lions. Third time in a row, the third year in a row, the Seahawks are coming to town to Detroit. First time in prime time. Matt, who you got?
Um, I'm just gonna go. We're just gonna go home field advantage here. Taking the Lions. I do think Laporta is the catalyst here. If he's playing, which I know he came back in that game, but he was not himself. I did not have another catch after he went down and had to go to the locker room. So I'm assuming a healthy Laporta. I'll just say that with the pick, but I think that is against the Seahawks. That's the advantage in chessboard. Is Laporta over the middle and messing up that defensive scheme of the Seahawks. So I also think the Seahawks, as I mentioned earlier, have played obviously some underwhelming teams. Their wins have been against lesser opponents. Lions clearly the best team they've seen so far. So at home with Laporta healthy, I'll take the Lions.
Cool. I'm next. I'm going Hawks for a couple of reasons. First up, the Seahawks own the Lions in Detroit. The last 2 years they've beat them in Detroit, so that doesn't matter. In my opinion, in terms of the home field thing. So I think that's even playing field. Jared Goff has thrown 4 interceptions this year. And this Seahawks secondary is legit. Like they are leading the league in pass yards per. Obviously, some of it is some quarterback play, but also if you watch them play, they're super fast, super coordinated. And Mike McDonald is a dude now. Like I'm convinced he's a dude. I don't really care who they've played because they're still out coaching like Mike McDaniel's. Even still out coaching him, and Sean Payton. Some legit guys. So I think they're going to take away the receiving game for the Lions and force a run game, which that's also their strength. So I'm that some people may not buy any weight to that, but I really do with how great this secondary is, and they're also leading the league in pressure rate. And they have three of the top six guys in pressure rate as well, and Boye Mafe, Leonard Williams, and Derek Hall. So they have legit dudes who are showing up. So I'm taking the Hawks. Jamison.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions. I think the most exciting element of this game is going to be the Lions offense versus Seattle defense chess match there between two, well, I don't want to say two coordinators because now one is a former coordinator, but two guys that were, really hot in the postseason last year. Um,
Play callers.
about, yeah, like these guys are going to be next on the head coaching situations. And so they're two guys that I would expect to be head coaching against each other in the future at some point. But that Lions offense versus that Seattle defense is going to be pretty fun to watch for a few different levels. But I think the Lions at home are just going to have a little bit more juice. I do think there is something to say about who the Seahawks have played so far
Mhm.
versus who the Lions actually are. The offensive line that the Lions have, the run game that the Lions have. Jared Goff has been sloppy with the ball, but Geno is 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the year,
Yep.
even though I think he's been actually playing pretty well and making pretty good decisions overall.
He's still the most
Um,
pressured quarterback in the league. It's not even close.
exactly. And I know there's some question marks in the backfield for you guys offensively too. And so that's a bit of a concern of mine. And Aiden Hutchinson has been playing like a man possessed so far this year. So
Yeah.
I don't love that for them. I think the Lions take this one, and that's going to be it's a must for us, Matthew.
Dumb
We need
question.
the Seahawks to drop.
We do need this. But also, is Walker playing?
Uh, we don't have an update yet.
Okay.
Nothing really. Um,
Yeah.
it's an
This is
abdominal thing. So,
early.
dude, Mike McDonald is the same as Pete Carroll. Like, doesn't really give clear answers on injuries.
Yeah, I have zero issue with that too, by the way. Obviously my coaching staff does not talk about
Yeah.
injury issues.
Yeah.
But I have zero issue leaving it up to chance.
You guys are kind of cursed in Seattle with running backs, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, Ken Walker's missed a couple games now every year.
Yeah.
And we lost Chris Carson, who was great when he was playing.
Stud. Yeah.
Yep.
But no, I just think the Seahawks have a lot more to prove than the Lions. Like, this is a young team that
I
they
just don't know if they
finally,
can. Was
yeah.
my thing.
Well, and it's a real litmus test. If the Seahawks show up and this is competitive and like the Lions have to struggle to get this win, I think you're showing a lot of who the Seahawks can be.
I agree. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think this weekend, something as we close out the show here that I want to like just stress is that as these players come back, okay, that we listed a lot of guys that have been injured. Ken Walker just notably there. A lot of receivers that have been injured. There are guys that are coming back, making their way. T. Higgins made his first appearance on Sunday.
Yep.
For the Bengals, they're in week 3.
Monday.
The 49ers are expected to have Kittle back this week. You're going to see AJ Brown has got a Q tag on him right now.
Cooper Kupp's going to be out this week.
So yeah, like if as these guys come back, we're going to know a lot more of who these teams are. And I was, week to week, we're having a lot of conversations with a lot of people inside the show, outside the show. And today was discussing with a Bronco fan a little bit more of Knicks, and he was talking about he's like, man, because last week I was just trying to encourage him. This is he's well, and shout out to Dr. Pace who watches our show, my chiropractor. He was like, man, I just don't know, like, right, we're not getting first downs. And in talking about rookies, I just said, hey, you got to understand, like, this is one of the most complicated offenses in the history of the NFL, and the speed in which he has to make choices is crazy. And right now, he doesn't have his playmakers on the same page as him. He's trying to figure a lot out. This first month of the NFL is that way for everybody. And when you add injuries on top of it, you don't know what teams are, as we talked about at the beginning of the episode. But watch what happens. Hear me now. Like, watch what happens over the next 3 weeks as these guys come back from injuries and we look at what squads are on paper start to become a reality. And I'm not just saying that as like a hopeful 49er fan. Like, this is just NFL 101. When the team is whole, it starts to achieve what it should achieve.
Yeah.
We know what a lot of these teams are supposed to be. So let's look at it as a scope of, like, give them a real 6 weeks before you start making judgment calls. Like, if you're freaking out on fantasy football, I saw people dropping Mark Andrews today on fantasy, like literally just outright dropping him because nobody will accept their trades. And I'm like, guys, calm.
I picked him up in the B League because someone dropped him.
Yeah.
After week 1, dude. After week 1.
Everybody, calm down. Okay, just chill out for 2 seconds, because football is going to be football, and the cream of the crop is going to rise to the top. That's the way it works.
Yep.
So just watch the next 3 weeks, settle down a little bit. If your team was a playoff hopeful before and they had a couple injuries, hey, let's see what happens. Watch the adjustments come in real time. Miami's going to make a move for a quarterback real soon. So if you're a big Miami guy and you're hopeful, that's a great squad that's missing a play caller. Like, that's all it is. I'm of the belief that Joshua Dobbs is going to be a Dolphin here real soon. Tyler Huntley's getting the start for them most likely this week, by the way. Don't love that. Just basically coming off the street. But, like, watch what happens when your team makes those moves. We saw what happened last year when, speaking of Josh Dobbs, when the Vikings took him on and gave him the ball, and all of a sudden they go on a run and they just start knocking down teams they're not supposed to beat. That crud's going to happen because squads are still good, but they got to come together. So just let it happen. Calm down. Just calm down. As one guy famously said, relax. It's going to happen for us. So I just encourage everybody that's, if you've been doubting on your team the last couple of weeks or you're freaked out about injuries, probably like me and Jamison have been, we know what the NFL is. This happens.
Yeah. Well,
and we'll make adjustments and good teams will rise up.
Well, and obviously I was joking about this being the show, Seahawks 3-0. The rule I always go by is after Halloween.
Yeah. You know what it is.
After Halloween, if your team is 5 and I don't know how many games that is, but like, if you're winning and you're looking good after at Halloween, like, then feel good about your team.
Yeah, and I literally had this last season with the Rams. They
started 3-6.
They were not good, and guess what? By the end of the season, when everybody was on the same page and Cooper Kupp was back, even if not 100%, pretty good.
Absolutely. And honestly, in a month, is anybody on this show, I don't even include Mike in this statement, going to be shocked if the Cowboys won 4 in a row? No. None of us are going to be shocked at all. Are we going to be shocked if the Bengals win 4 in a row and they're sitting there at 4-3? No, because they're a squad who can. Are we going to be shocked if the Vikings are 3-4? No. Because we expected them to be bad. We understand that sometimes this is what happens. It takes a minute. And I think brilliantly, we've kind of discussed it on accident today. A lot of this has to do with the lack of preseason play. A lot of it has to do with teams not getting into the season until the season starts. And this is just how the NFL will be as long as we're moving up towards a 17-game schedule and then an 18-game schedule. Teams are going to take a while. It's just how it works, man. They're going to do dumb things because they're still trying to figure it out. Brandon Ayuk didn't play until literally to practice until moments before the first game.
Like 3 or 4 days before?
5 this week, and Juwan Jennings caught 12 because Juwan Jennings was there for all of training camp, was there for off-season workouts, was there for everything. This is just the way the NFL is. It's a business that takes time to come together. So nothing's going to surprise us as much as probably the last 2 weeks have over this.
I don't know.
But, I think we know what good is. And that's why I'm sitting here as a 1-2 fan going, I know what good is. I know what we have. Jamison, I'm sure, feels a relative amount of that, even though he knows he's not getting big guys back for a while. But, like, we know what our teams are, and we're going to see some things happen. And don't be shocked when the script flips this next month. And like you said, come Halloween, we're looking at a very different picture, and even some playoff things are starting to really show in terms of who's what. So look for the script to flip, man. That's all I'm saying. Yep. But we appreciate you guys joining us this week. We're going to bug out right now. We'll call it an episode. Check out week 4 this weekend. Some hot games that we already mentioned. Your team's probably got something that matters, whether they were in the pick'em or not.
Let's go.
And by the way, if your fantasy football team sucks right now, it's 3 weeks in. Like everything I just said also applies to that.
Yep.
Don't panic. Also, I'm real sorry if you drafted the likes of Tyreek Hill, and Jamar Chase, and you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. They're going to get receptions. Man, just stay the course, everybody. We'll see you after week 4. We'll be right back here to talk about all of it. We'll get in some quarterback stuff this next week, break some things down. We'll put Mike on a special assignment, have him come in and lay out some facts for us, and we'll have a great time talking all about it this next week. Enjoy football weekend, everybody. Let's go.